Dave Ramsey tells you to get out of debt and stay out of debt. Grant Cardone tells you to actually use debt to build wealth and live an abundant life. One preaches financial peace through debt elimination, while the other one advocates for leveraging debt and creating massive income streams. Both have built huge empires and have sold millions of dollars in personal finance books, yet their approaches are polar opposite. So who should you listen to? Grant Cardone or Dave Ramsey? Well, in this video, we're going to dive into the differences and the similarities between the two. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my personal opinion who you should listen to. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Jeff Anzalone, a periodontist that's simply here to get you out of the rat race and to get to the point that work is optional. If you haven't already downloaded the free passive income guide I have for you, I got the link below this video. Let's get into it. First up, we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey, okay? When I got out of dental school over 20 years ago, him and Susie Orman were really the biggest financial gurus out there. I've been a Dave Ramsey listener for years. I'm really glad I did because I got screwed out of a job. I had to learn how to start my own practice as a periodontist, and I took his 7 baby steps, and that's really the only thing that I knew besides from what I was taught from my parents and other people. Okay. Now, if you don't know anything about him, Dave Ramsey, he's actually known for a very conservative approach. He preaches the gospel of living debt-free, and he's helped millions of people with the 7 baby steps, which we're going to get into shortly. Okay. But he's all about debt-free living. So if you have never heard of the 7 baby steps, then we're going to review them. If you have, well, then this is going to be just a review for you. Baby step number 1, he recommends that you start an emergency fund. Okay, the first thing you want to do, now you could be a doctor, a dentist, you could be a plumber, you could be a college student, just getting out, whatever you are, wherever you are in your financial journey. Dave recommends that you save up as quickly as possible $1,000. Why? Because this is going to be like a financial buffer whenever you have those unexpected expenses, car repairs, medical bills, that sort of thing. Because he wants you to avoid taking out your credit card and getting new debt when emergencies come up. Trust me, I've got kids, I've been married for over 20 years, our emergencies come up, and that's why he recommends having emergency fund. Baby step number 2, and this is where you're gonna stay for the most part, the longest period of time, probably out of all these steps, is something called the debt snowball. So he recommends that you pay off all of your debt, except for your house, using the debt snowball. And when I got out of my training, I did this. I actually had a whiteboard like this, and I listed out all my debts, smallest to largest. And you pay the minimums on all the debts, but that smallest one, that first one, you want to throw all the money you can at that debt. But some people will say, well, Jeff, that's kind of stupid, because if I have a credit card that's got like 25% interest and then my student loan only has 4% interest, it would make more mathematical sense to pay off the higher interest rate. People call in and they ask him this all the time. His biggest reasoning for doing this is right here. It's a psychological win, because when you list that out, let's say it's $2,000. Well, hey, I've just busted my butt and I paid off this $2,000 whatever debt in 2 months. You get that first psychological win. It gives you some motivation. It gives you some momentum, and then you can move on to the next step. Okay, so that's the whole point of that. Baby step number 3. Then he recommends that you go back up to your emergency fund, which you had $1,000 in it, and now you want to put 3 to 6 months of your expenses in it. So for instance, if you have let's say you've got $10,000 of your monthly expenses, so he recommends 3 to 6 months, so it would be $30,000 to $60,000 to put in there. I originally did 6 months, now I've got about 1.5 years after I've done this for a while. Again, you may just want to do a month. You may want to do 3 months. You may want to do 12 months, whatever you're comfortable with. But this is his recommendation, 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, okay? Moving on to baby step number 4 is then you take 15% of your income, your household income, and you save it in retirement. And again, we're going to get into the difference between the two, but I have to go back and I have to look at the different lenses that I was looking at as I was going through my career. You could probably do this too. You can look at when you were 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, whatever. Back then, the lens that I was looking through was, okay, here's what I need to do. I looked at all the other dentists They were working until they were 70 or older. And this is who he was speaking to. Hey, we're going to get out of debt, which is great. We're going to invest 15% or more in a 401k, IRA, something to work an entire career. I only thought, hey, I had to work. Here's going to be the big difference between the two. And like I said, I'm going to tell you what I recommend or what I'm doing. I thought that you had to do this, and the only way to really become a millionaire, to have wealth, is to do this. The slow, steady, the tortoise and the hare race, the slow, steady, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is what he was recommending. I had to work until I'm 65, 70, whatever. Then I could, quote, retire. Okay, I could build a substantial retirement fund. Baby step number 5 is, if you have kids, then he recommends that you save for college, 529 plan, which we've done, which if I were to go back again, I would do it differently, but that's for another video, or educational savings account, ESA. Because you know that it will help out your kids. They'll give them a head start to have like a debt-free head start in life if they're able to get out of college, if they do go to college and they're not having any debt. All right. Baby step number 6 is pay off the house. Again, we went through all these. I had $300,000 student loan debt. I went through all of these. I paid off that first house. Baby step number 6 is to do that. And then after that, then you move on to baby step number 7, and that is self-explanatory: build wealth and give. All right. Again, Ramsey's approach is ideal for those people out there who want to build a solid financial foundation without the stress of debt. Got it? All right. So now let's shift gears and explore a totally different philosophy, and that is Grant Cardone. All right. He's known for his real estate investing, for opening up other businesses. He's really known for his 10X rule. I've gotten the book. It's a great book. And he's all about massive action and thinking big, thinking outside the box. He's, like I mentioned earlier, he's all about leveraging debt to build wealth. And we also had another video, and I'll link it at the end, about Robert Kiyosaki. Him and Kiyosaki are kind of the same thing. Leveraging debt, good debt, not bad debt, not a bunch of credit card debt, but leveraging debt in order to be investments, okay? His big focus is entrepreneurship, real estate investing, that sort of thing. All right, so let's get into what Grant Cardone, how they differ. Again, the 10X rule. All right, this is like his signature concept. He believes that most people, myself included, underestimate what they can achieve and they don't take enough action, okay? He encourages setting your goals, as you can imagine, 10X. You want a 10X, 10 times higher than what you initially think you can accomplish. And then once you do that, that's when you go and take massive action. I actually had a meeting with him a few years ago. I sat down with him. He kind of looked at, I was starting to get into real estate or bringing investors in, raising capital, that sort of thing. So he said, well, tell me how many investors are on your email list. And at that time, it was like 900. And in my thoughts, I had, I was wanting to grow this. I was wanting to raise a certain amount of capital, getting the investors the best deal, that sort of thing. And I kind of knew he was going to ask me this, but it kind of caught me off guard. And before he really got into a bunch of details, he said, okay, Jeff, you got 900, let's call it 1,000 accredited investors on your investor list. I said, okay. He said, what would happen? What would happen to your business? What would happen to your dental practice? What would happen to your life if you 10X that? If you went from 1,000 people, potential people investing with you, to 10,000. I was literally just kind of speechless for a few seconds because it makes you think so much differently. We're like, okay, I have 1,000 investors and I want to get 100 more this year. Okay, so I'm going to go to 1,100. So you have this really small thinking. But once you start going, holy crap, if I had 10,000 investors, I could do this, or we could have this many properties for people. We could give this type of returns. We could have meetings. It completely just opened my eyes up. And that is what his whole philosophy is on. Okay. Just like this YouTube channel, when I first started, it was like, okay, I just need to get, the goal whenever you're starting a YouTube channel is to get that first 1,000 subscribers. Okay, I've got to get 1,000 subscribers in. But, if he would go back and talk to me back then, he would say, okay, let's focus on 10,000 subscribers. It would completely change the way I'm thinking. So I want you to think about that in your life, whatever you're trying to accomplish, 10x it, okay? Number two, he talks about leveraging debt. So unlike Dave Ramsey, Cardone sees debt, and just like Robert Kiyosaki does as well, as a tool for growth. Okay. Again, he encourages using, quote, good debt, which this good debt will be used to acquire assets that are going to generate income, such as, you guessed it, the next one, real estate. So for him, debt is basically a means to expand and accelerate your wealth building, which leads us to number three, as you can imagine, real estate investing. He is a huge proponent of real estate as a pathway to wealth. I didn't learn any of this in dental school. I didn't learn this in college, okay? That's why I'm turning around and trying to expose you to this. Is it right for everybody? No, okay? Now, he also, the majority of his real estate portfolio that I'm aware of is multifamily. He has these big apartment complexes, and most of them are very high end, Class A. A lot of them are in his area where he lives, Miami. And he preaches heavily that real estate provides cash flow, which it does, and significant tax advantages. Number four, and this is what I really like about his ways that he's teaching, which really differ from Dave Ramsey, is he's really big on entrepreneurship. He says this is the key to financial success, because he knows and he believes, just like myself, that owning a business, when I went from an employee periodontist, working for somebody, renting from somebody, to buying this building, to becoming my own boss, becoming self-employed. So now I went from an employee to owning a business. So now what does that do for you? When you own a business, it allows you for greater control over your work, your time, your income, who you want to hire, who you want to fire, opportunities, significant tax benefits versus going from an employee, which you don't really get any, to self-employed, okay? Now, he also is really big on sales skills. And I've got 2 teenagers right now. If you have kids, the biggest thing that you can do is to expose them and get them to learning, put them in a situation, put them in jobs, whether, we have a local health club here. And a lot of the teenagers here, they work at the front desk. Well, putting them in positions where they're dealing with the public, they're learning customer service, they're learning sales skills. If somebody wants to come in and get a membership, they have to learn how to sell, because there's different tiers of memberships. If you want to set your kids up for success, I do agree with Cardone about this big time, is help them learn customer service and help them learn how to sell. This is critical for any entrepreneur, okay? So now we know what Dave's all about, and now we know what Cardone is all about. Let's put them up side by side like a comparative analysis. So again, a lot of this is going to be self-explanatory, but let's just go side by side comparison. Then we're going to go through the pros, and then we're going to go through the cons, and then shortly I'm going to tell you what I think, because I have used both, and now I'm taking my own approach. Okay. Again, debt philosophy. Again, Ramsey, completely avoid debt entirely. Good debt, bad debt, any debt. It's a financial trap. He's always quoting, the borrower is a slave to the lender. It's one of the proverbs, okay? He is anti-debt. Cardone, on the other hand, encourages using debt strategically to acquire income-producing assets. So it's debt-free living with Dave versus leverage growth with Cardone. Number 2 is the investment strategy. Ramsey's really big right here, baby step number 4, on mutual funds. Very conservative, have a strong 10-year track record, index funds, mutual funds. While Cardone is completely anti-stock market. He's heavy into real estate, and he's heavy into acquiring businesses as well. Slow and steady growth, faster growth with a more potential for higher returns, okay? Speaking of higher returns and growth, then you have to look at the risk tolerance. His approach is very conservative, low risk. It's suitable for people out there that are seeking financial security without volatility, okay? No volatility without volatility. On the other hand, Cardone, he talks about higher risk, but with higher risk, there has a potential for what? Higher reward. So if you're a risk taker, you may like his approach. Lifestyle and spending. If you've ever read The Millionaire Next Door, Ramsey's approach is literally textbook. He's all about frugality. He's all about living below your means and saving for the future. Cardone, on the other hand, thinking big, taking action, thinking big, and spending money to make more money. Now, here's the thing you have to realize with this is the target audience. Ramsey, he's speaking to individuals, families looking to get out of debt and build a stable financial foundation, which, think about it, that's the majority of Americans. Most Americans are broke, they have no money, they have no direction, and it would do them a very good service if they just went through and followed this. Cardone's approach is better suited for aspiring entrepreneurs and investors looking to scale their wealth quickly. So those are the differences between the two. So now let's get into the pros and cons, all right? Now, let's start off with Dave Ramsey. Let's start off with the pros. Pros are, if you go through his 7 baby steps and you go through what he teaches, you're going to have some financial stability, you're going to have peace of mind, and you're going to have very clear guidelines for eliminating debt. I'm really glad that when I got out, I had all kinds of student loans. You don't just have one student loan. I had some federal loans, had some personal loans, had loans over here. So I had like 7 or 8 student loans. So I'm really glad that gave me a strategy, clear guidelines for eliminating my debt. And he's also has another pro is a conservative investment strategy for long-term growth. The cons for Dave Ramsey is it's going to take longer. We're in a society now that we want it now, right? But if you follow his approach, it's going to be a slower wealth accumulation because he limits the risk taking. Okay, when you limit this risk taking, you also limit the potential for higher returns. Those are the cons. Now, Cardone, on the other hand, the pros are potential for rapid wealth growth, unlike Ramsey's approach. He's leveraging good debt for investments. He wants to use our money to make money, and he has a very strong focus on what I love, entrepreneurship and business growth. Now, the cons with Cardone is higher risk with his financial strategies, and his approach, it actually requires, and I do agree with this, a strong financial knowledge. You better know what you're doing, you better know what you're getting into, and discipline. Both Ramsey and Cardone, they offer valuable insights on their approaches. But here's the thing, your choice is going to depend on what's best for you, your financial goals, and the stage of life that you're in. You know what's best for you. I don't. The guy down the street doesn't. Your friends don't. You know deep down, it's in your gut. You have that gut feeling. A lot of people, years ago and still today with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Well, some people got into it. They really studied it. They did real good. Some people didn't, but some people got into it knowing that they shouldn't have, okay? They knew deep down they shouldn't have done it because they didn't understand it. They just had that feeling. So again, you have to figure out where you are on your journey. Okay, so let me share with you where I'm at with all of this between the two, because they both provide powerful frameworks for achieving financial success. Either way, you can't go wrong, but you have to, the best choice depends on where you are in your financial journey. All right, so if you're just starting out, okay, when I look back at my life, just starting out, got out of dental school, got out of my training, $300,000 in debt, had to start a practice on my own, little kids to feed, just in survival mode, just scraping, grinding it out. This approach, his approach initially, Cardone, that wasn't for me. I'm really glad that I had a framework because I had all this debt. And, I coach dentists, I coach doctors, financial freedom coaching. I've got some people that are in their 50s and 60s, they still have student loan debt. But they're like, oh, Jeff, it's only like 3% or 4% or whatever. But this just goes to show you, when you look at it like that, you're going to carry that debt on your whole life. Well, what happens if you carry that type of debt your whole life? Well, it limits the amount you can invest because you're having to make these payments along the way. Think about if you have $15,000 a month in debt payments, and then how much could you have to invest versus you don't have that 15 grand. Look how much more you can invest. Okay, so I do agree with that. Depending on your situation, just starting off, I recommend, and I still teach, getting rid of all the consumer debt. Credit cards, if you have car loans, if you have other type of high interest debts, and I even recommend, again, for me, getting rid of the student loan debts. It's just going to because everything in life gets more expensive with houses, upgrading houses, with kids, with that sort of thing. I recommend that you pay off those student loans. That's just me. Again, it may not be for you. You may not want to do that. So again, if you're just starting off, if you've got a bunch of debt, if you're looking to kind of jumpstart your career or whatever, I would start with Dave. If you're looking for a safe way to financial freedom, Dave's approach is probably going to be the best fit for you. Now, on the other hand, if you want to take some calculated risk, you want to scale your income, you want to get into real estate, you want to get into entrepreneurship, Cardone could be the best for you. I thought I was going to be on Dave's path for my whole career. And it took a wrist injury. I was about 40 years old. So I've been practicing for about 10 years. My kids at that time were 8 and 6. Went snow skiing, had a wrist injury. And I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to work as a dentist, as a periodontist, if I can't use my hands? What happens if this becomes like a permanent thing? I got a little bit of disability insurance, but I knew that wasn't going to cut it. So that was my big burning why, Start with Why, Simon Sinek's book, fantastic book, but that was my driving force for me to focus on how can I provide for my family if I couldn't work, if I could not practice as a dentist, which led me down to studying wealthy people, learning about Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Grant Cardone, all these other people that I would have never probably, I'm not gonna say never, but more than likely it would have maybe taken me longer to become familiar with their approaches, because I thought really this was it. I had to, I was 40 years old, right before I hurt my wrist. I'm investing money in a 401k, and it was just slowly growing. The stock market go up, it'd go down, go up, and go down. I was just slow and steady. And going on that path, it is going to take a long time, pretty much your whole career. And if that's right for you, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that path. I've got relatives out there. Some of them want to own their own business, like me. Some of them don't want that at all. They're safe. They want to be an employee. They want to know they have that steady income, that 9 to 5, and that's fine. If that's you, that's fine. But if that is you, I would recommend Dave's path. Once I hurt my wrist, once I started getting into real estate, always wanted to be an entrepreneur, I started looking at what Cardone's teaching. I was completely debt free. And then I got to the point where I started learning how to leverage good debt after I networked with people that knew what they were doing. They could teach me, coaches, mentors, eventually partners in the mobile home parks, RV parks that we're doing now. This would be more for you depending on what stage career you are. So let me ask you this, Dave Ramsey, Grant Cardone, which path are you going to choose? Do me a favor, let me know in the comments section below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, if you thought it was good, subscribe, give me a like, and I want you to check out this next video where I actually compare Dave Ramsey with Robert Kiyosaki. I'll see you in the video.